Hello. Hi, buddy. Welcome to the 11 o'clock in-house merchandise seminar. We've got three folks who are going to be chatting with you all today. First of all, walking to the back is Mark Jesse. Mark is co-owner of both Racket River Brewing Company and the Faust Motel, which are located in beautiful Tupper Lake, New York. He grew up in a family-owned business called Jesse's Bait and Tackle, and it is there, in that business that Mark learned about business and merchandising as a teenager. Mark's involved in the promotion of tourism and development of the Adirondacks through organizations like the Regional Office of Sustainable Tourism and many other community groups. Mark's been a sitting board member of that organization for 7 years and is a close friend and a really good guy. No pressure. He's an excellent presenter too. No, I'm just kidding. Morgan McReynolds, to my left, moved to New York in 2015 following many years of seasonal hospitality work around the country. She started with the Big Slide Brewery and Public House when we opened our doors in 2016 and became general manager there in 2020. She's been doing both merchandise for Big Slide and our original brewery, the Lake Placid Pub and Brewery, since 2017. Morgan will go on to be the general manager of our third location, opening later this year, River Trail Beer Works, which is going to open in Saranac Lake, and will be in charge of merchandise for all three locations. When she's not at the brewery, she spends her time with her husband, friend, and dog Bruce, somewhere on the water exploring the Adirondacks. Eric, is it Limmer? Limmer is owner and co-founder of Merch and Swag out of Hauppauge. Eric graduated with a degree in exercise and sports science from Penn State, then spent the majority of his 20s and 30s in the hospitality industry, owning and managing bars and restaurants. He left that industry to join his current partner at Merch and Swag, which was started 10 years ago, filling a niche in the customer apparel and promotion product industry. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to these guys. Hope you guys get something good out of this.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Chris. I'm assuming everybody's here because they want to sell more merchandise, or you want to start selling merchandise, right? So where do you start? That's what everybody wants to know. What do I do? You start with good beer. If you own a brewery, you work in a brewery, you manage a brewery, you're not going to sell a lot of merchandise if you're not brewing good beer. So that's where we all need to focus, right? That's what we love to do, is brew beer. Selling merchandise is secondary, but it's very important, obviously, and it can be a huge revenue for you. But it's not going to happen if you're not selling good beer. And secondly, creating an atmosphere where people want to take a piece of that atmosphere home with them. If people come to your brewery and they're drinking good beer and they're having a great experience, that's when they want to take something home, right? If they come into your place and the beer's okay and the bartender's a little grumpy and they have a beer and they leave, they're not leaving with a shirt or glassware or whatever. So if you create a place where the experience is awesome, that's when people get up and they walk over to your merch place. Yeah. It's like, personally, I don't need another brewery t-shirt. I've got drawers and drawers of them, but I still sometimes go in a brewery when I'm traveling, sit down and have such a great time. I find myself going, I want to get a t-shirt. I want to take something home. I want to support these guys. I want to tell the world that I've been here. And I get up and I walk over to the merch place and I start buying stuff. I don't do that when I don't have a good experience. You just forego that, right? So that's, we all want to sell merchandise, and we all can, but just concentrate on what you do best first, and that's brew beer, and make people happy, give them a comfortable space to be, and the merch sales will come with that. You can't do one without the other. You know what I mean? Yeah, touch on your beginning of it, if you'd like.
These are just some of the little things that we're going to go over today. Products, like what kind of products to carry, what sells really well. quantities in which like we order them. Inventory management, best ways to display them, what kind of like promos, discounts, you know, to get rid of some of your back stock. And then strategies to unload seasonal merchandise. Mark and I both share this opinion, and it's that one of the most important ways to sell your merchandise and get people to want to take it home is to let them touch it, right?
Yeah.
You know, people want to like touch those T-shirts. They want to take up the glass, and they want to feel these products. And sometimes you go to places where, it's stored behind glass or it's behind a counter. You want to make your merchandise shoppable, right? You want to make it really easy for these people to spend money. So that's kind of what we're going to go through.
Yeah, there's two things that I hear from a lot of people. I don't want to fold clothes all day, and I'm worried about people stealing merch. So, and people really dig in with those two ideas. And that's counterproductive to what we want to do. So first of all, you have to have your merchandise readily available where people can put their hands on it. They can, so how many people have seen T-shirts like rolled up like this and up on the shelf where you can't reach them, and then there might be one of these opened up somewhere, but people want to come in and they want to do this. They want to go, oh, this looks good on me. This looks good on you. Oh, it's too small for Chris. But they want to touch it. They want to. It's okay. It's okay if you have to refold shirts half your day. My staff refolds shirts all the time, but that means you're selling them. If you're not refolding them, you're probably not selling them. So let people touch them, put them where they can get at them and tear them apart. As far as people stealing stuff, if that's all rolled up in the little thing, that's pretty easy to steal. If it's out like this, it's going to be a little harder. And if somebody steals this shirt that cost me $6 and they walk around the earth for 2 years wearing it on their back, who cares? Let them steal it, right? But we also know our clientele, right? We have people with disposable income, professional people. They're not coming in and stealing loads of merch. You know, you might lose a few things through the year, but I don't waste my time and energy worrying about that. If somebody steals a shirt, it's not the end of the world. So those are the two biggest things I hear from people. They don't want to refold stuff. They want the place to be perfectly neat and controlled through a whole 8-hour shift or 10-hour shift or whatever it is. It's just not realistic. And that you got to let go of that. Just let go of the theft thing, the shoplifting, or whatever it is. And if you let people rifle through all this stuff, you're going to sell a lot more clothing.
I'm going to touch on something a little bit after you guys done a new technology in the merchandising industry that might be something good for pretty much all of you guys here. So I'll touch on that in a little bit.
Okay, so our first kind of thing, here's product, variety, quantity. So as you can see, we have a ton of different things listed up here that you can stock in your tap rooms. First, I think 2 biggest sellers in your tap room, maybe 3, stickers, t-shirts, glassware, right? So, having gender neutral and like women specific t-shirts and sweatshirts, long sleeve shirts, whatever, is really helpful. We have a variety of all of these items. Glassware, koozies, we sell like 4 different glasses pretty much kind of at each place, as well as silly pints and silly shots. We are located in the Adirondacks Lake, so like boating and outdoors camping is super popular in our area. So the silly pints have really kind of blown up our sales as far as like glassware goes. So those are really great to have. Hats, we carry, about 10 hats at Big Slide and a few more than that at our other location. Mark?
Yeah, so for us, clothing drives the bus. So short sleeve, long sleeve shirts, crew necks, hoodies, and hats is the vast majority of our revenue for merchandise. There's not a lot of markup on glassware. You obviously have to have that. And then we have a lot of odds and ends like stickers and magnets and koozies and little placards and signs and stuff. And those are all great because if you have a merchandise area like we do that you can actually walk through, those oddball things that you don't make a lot of money on, they keep people in that area longer. Now they're in shopping mode. They're not just going and grabbing a t-shirt and leaving. They have stuff to browse through and look at. And that, to my point before, you want people to shop. And I was talking to Kevin earlier, I mean, have you ever been to a Marshall's or something and saw all the clothing up on the wall where you couldn't get at it? Of course not. So why would shopping at a brewery be any different? You need to put that stuff out there and not hide it from them. Let them get their hands on it. And having that variety that Morgan was talking about is good because it just keeps them there a little bit longer. The longer somebody's in that area, the more likely they are to buy something or add something to what they're already buying, right?
Also, like, as far as kind of this other category of different things, you know, you can work with other, like, local purveyors that you know in your area. Like, surely there's someone in your area that probably makes dog biscuits from spent grain, right? That's a great little kitschy thing to have in your gift shop, especially if you're a very, like, dog-friendly place. Beer soaps. We work with a woman out in North Creek who comes up a couple times a year, gets some of our growlers, takes them home, makes these beautiful little bar soaps, bars of beer soap rather, and tons of different scents, all seasonal, and they're super cute, and those sell pretty well too. Other local goods like maple syrups, kind of stuff like that in your gift shop too, are always nice little things to have. And also, you know, kind of think about like what is popular in your area. Where I'm from, in Lake Placid, we're very sports central and outdoor central, right? So we sell bike jerseys. That might not make sense in some places, but it makes sense for us. So considering, you know, what people come to your area for, you can get those kind of little like extra things that are just super unique, you know?
Yeah, we also have, so we're in Tupper Lake. The Wild Center has a maple syrup program. We sell maple syrup candies and stuff like that. It's unique to the area. People like that. We also do spent grain dog biscuits that we make, or one of our employees makes. So those specialty items are cool if they're unique to your area. People want to pick that stuff up. Also wanted to touch on you know, where you're getting your clothing. We deal with a company right in Tupper Lake mostly. We do have another vendor also. You should always have a couple at least. But having a local vendor where you can go to their spot and put your hands on the clothing and take their advice, you know, build a relationship with your vendor. And so, you know, you need to have somebody you know and trust and enjoy working with. And then they'll steer you in the right direction, and they'll always alert you to the new products out there so you can get your logo on those. It's just nice to have somebody close by if you're able to. And I always recommend having a second or third vendor just because of the supply chain issues that we all know about. So it's good to have that too.
Actually, let me touch on that for a second. Yes, very, very important to work with a local vendor, especially in the apparel, or even if you are able to get promotional products locally, specifically to save on shipping. I've had clients who, up until they were working with me, and I'm on the East Coast in Long Island, were getting their stuff done in California and having it shipped to New York, where they're spending thousands of dollars on shipping, not realizing that if they had done it with someone like myself local, there's no shipping involved. So obviously that's something you definitely want to keep in mind, and if you have a local vendor, it's, you know, absolutely, because as we all know, shipping costs have gone through the roof, so.
So the next couple slides are just examples of what we carry across our, you know, 3 breweries that sell pretty well. So this is big slide. So up in the corner, you'll see that's one of our bike jerseys, Kevin designed over here. And then we have like long sleeve shirt. Oh, I guess this has a pointer on it, right? This is kind of our hoodie that we've been selling for a few years now. And And then we try to do some things that are fun and some things that are more functional, right? We let our staff wear our merchandise as well. So we try to do some that are more neutral. One thing that's really great about this is our branding is very clear. You know, you want people to look at your stuff and just automatically know, like, hey, that's Big Slide. Or hey, that's Lake Placid, that's Ragged River. So I feel like we do a really good job at making that very clear. And then these are just a few other things that we sell. These are the silly pines that I was talking about. They come in a million different colors and people love them. So if you don't sell these, I definitely suggest that you do. And then these are just a couple of our hats. You know, we do like a leather patch hat. We do variety. We have structured hats, we have cotton hats, we have unstructured hats, we have flat brim hats, winter hats. And since we started picking up more hats, our hat sales have definitely gone up when we have different, a lot more styles to choose from. We have some socks. That's a couple of our glassware over there. The nice stem Tiku glasses sell really well for us. And then scarves. Just a couple like random things that we decided to try out too. So. And then,
Yeah, so that's all our clothing. Like I said, clothing is what we sell the most of, and variety is key. Color variety is huge. You can have the same logo on 10 different color shirts, and some people want every color shirt. Literally, every time we post a new color, people will come in, oh, you have that in, you know, in blue now, or whatever, they come and grab it. So the flannels are big now. Those started probably a year or two ago. Some breweries came out with them, and they're a big seller. But short sleeve shirts are probably number one. Long sleeve shirts, hoodies are huge. And then, next slide. Hats, we do a ton of hats. We use our local guy for that. We use League Legacy for a lot of our hats. They turn those around really quickly. Whereas a lot of small suppliers, if they're doing embroidery, it's really time consuming. So you might need a bigger vendor for those. We have coffee, which is pretty big for us. We have St. Lawrence Coffee Roasters, you know, one town over. They roast the coffee, they put our label on it. We move a lot of that. And then the basics, you know, glassware, we all have to have that. It's not a huge markup on glassware, but we do sell a lot of it. You want to buy that stuff by the full pallet if you can, and the price drops dramatically per piece. And that goes with everything. We order huge quantities of clothing and store them because you can drop the, you know, your price of a shirt by a couple bucks if you're buying, you know, $30,000 to $50,000 worth of clothing at a time. I don't know if we have brewery owners in here or managers, but does anybody know what percentage of your business is merch sales? Any? 5 to 10? Anybody else?
Yeah, it's probably like 10 to 15.
Ours is 25%. So it's huge, and it's doable. I mean, obviously we're doing it, and part of our success is we have the space to do it, right? You have to have the physical space, and our space isn't that big. Total merch space is probably 20 feet by 25 feet. It's not gigantic, but it's jam-packed with stuff, and it's easily accessible. It's right there in the beer hall. We have a 3,000 square foot beer hall. Then we have that merch on the end. And in the summertime, you have to walk through that to get to the outdoor patio. And that's another thing that freaks some people out. They're like, aren't you worried about people stealing? And I'm not worried about it. We're not worried about it because we're selling enough of it to make up for the little bit that might be lifted. So placement, you know, if you have a space, if you're planning a brewery, definitely carve out as much space as possible for merch, because we love to brew beer and that's our main thing, but brewing beer is a lot of work. Buying shirts and putting them on the shelf and selling them is pretty easy. So why would you not do that and make that extra 10 to 25% more revenue?
Mark, I was actually going to touch on what I was referring to before. Mark and I had a good conversation prior to this. There's a new technology, so I do screen printing, embroidery, all different types of decoration, but the newest thing in our industry is something called DTF, direct to film. Has anyone heard of DTG, direct to garment printers? So if you haven't, basically a direct to garment printer is digital printing. So basically, just like you would load a t-shirt, a piece of paper into a printer, you can load a t-shirt in and it prints similar to if it were printing like on a piece of paper. So there's no limitation as to colors and whatnot. So now the new technology is taking that direct to garment and going direct to film. So it's basically a heat transfer. A lot of people, when they hear the term heat transfer, they get turned off right away because it feels plasticky and whatnot. But there have been strides that in the industry where these transfers feel just as good or better than a screen print. So someone like Mark, who's lucky enough to have those type of sales and the space to do it, if you don't have, you need some sort of space. But if you don't have a tremendous amount of room, something called like direct to film transfers might be the way to go. And what you really need as far as to get started is a heat press. And then you can purchase the transfers from an online shop that sells them. So instead of spending your money holding inventory of garments, you're holding these transfers, which obviously are a lot less money. And that, therefore, so you can actually, instead of having to lay out $30,000 to $50,000 at a time, which you're lucky that you're able to do something like that. But if you're just getting started, it's something that you should definitely take a look at. DTF, direct to film. You could buy your transfers online, have them shipped, have them in inventory, and apply them to the garments as needed. And again, all you truly need is a heat press to do that. If you ever want to take it to the next level, like Mark and I were discussing, you could actually invest in the unit itself. My first unit that I purchased cost me $20,000. The year prior to buying that machine, I had spent approximately $100,000 in heat transfers. Logos, names and numbers on the backs of jerseys and stuff like that. The DTF technology has replaced all of that. So if you ever get to a point where you could actually have the unit in-house, again, it's not that tremendous amount of an outlay, but to get started, again, you could just purchase said transfers. And instead of obviously having the inventory that you might sit on forever, if it doesn't sell, you're not really investing all that much. So something.
What's it called?
It's called it's DTF, direct to film, is the technology.
How durable is that? Sorry to ask.
I'm sorry?
The DTF, how durable
It will last just as long as the screen print is done correctly. You'll get 75 washes out of it. Like I tell any of my clients and customers, I don't care what the product is heat kills. So turn it inside out, wash it on cold, and it will obviously, last a lot longer. But yeah, it's extremely durable though.
I can tell you at every one of my son's hockey tournaments, they're selling shirts and they're putting the name and the number on right in the lobby. And he's wearing it to play hockey, he's wearing it, everything, not one, application has peeled or come off or anything, not one in 10 years. Like it's very durable.
It's exploded, like it really has exploded in my industry. And it's anyone that'll listen, like I deal with some contract embroiderers and screen printers myself. I get a 50,000 piece order, I don't have the wherewithal to do it. So my contract embroiderer, I explained this technology to him, he invested it, and now he's selling wholesale transfers to his customers. So it's definitely something, especially if you're starting out and don't want to outlay a large amount of money on your apparel to sell. It's a great way to get in.
transfers unlimited color?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you could do one color, up to, again, I could put your face on it, so, yeah.
Yeah, we actually have some products at the Pub and Brewery that are that type of transfer. I don't have any pictures of them right now, I guess, but we do some things like that, and they do sell really well, and they look great. The colors are super vibrant on them, which you don't always necessarily capture when you do like a traditional screen print. So if you have something really colorful, it's definitely a good option.
It doesn't limit your creativity, because when you know you're gonna screen print something, you always wanna limit the number of colors, right? Because it costs more per color. But with that, you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that.
Colors don't matter.
And it's also nice if you're doing a special event and you only wanna print a handful of shirts or whatever. You can do whatever you want. You can put the date of that event on there, where that's a scary thing to do, right? To buy anything with a date on it or a specific event, because if you don't sell them at the event, they're pretty worthless after that. So if you have that system, then you have that flexibility.
And one thing I was kind of just thinking about too, as I was looking at these slides on my computer, is when you're doing your advertising, you're putting your pictures on social media and your website to sell all of this stuff, your picture quality is pretty important. If you look at this slide, the two pictures on the left, the two hats, those are just cell phone images. And then all of the rest of these are like professional photos. So, I mean, if you just look at like, these are all professional photos and they just look so much better. So if you have a lot of stuff, it's worth a couple times a year having a photographer come out and do these nice photos for you. They'll last forever. You know, you can do things that you're going to carry for a long time. And what some of us don't know is that some of the people that are your merchandisers, right? Your League, Legacy, Cooley Group, whatever, they can send you web images also, like web ready images for you to use on your social. And that's what a lot of these are from Wreck River. I just pulled them right off of Mark's website for this. So
Without my permission.
yeah. And some of them can even like use their web images that are already like someone like sitting at the lake or in the mountains or whatever, and they superimpose your logo on it, and it's what your shirt looks like, you know, but it's this like beautifully posed, nicely composed photo. It's definitely going to help like get more attraction on social media and everything when you're doing your advertising. A couple things about inventory management, as far as like restocking storage and your physical inventory. Nothing is more annoying when you go somewhere and the shelves are bare, right? Or that size isn't out there. You want a large and there's none stocked. Now you have to go to someone and be like, hey, do you have this in a large? Now they have to go to the back, they have to find it. Maybe they won't even look for it. You know, sometimes that happens. They're busy, they're gonna go back and they're gonna come back and say, nope, I'm sorry, we don't have that. And you just lost that sale. So making sure that your display area is stocked with all of your sizes is super important. That is like, at our place, that's the job of our hostess in the morning, or the opening managers, to go through and make sure that all the sizes are stocked out front. I usually keep like 3 smalls, 3 mediums, like 7 larges, and then like, you know, 3 or 4 XL, double X out front all the time. Larges are your most popular size. So making sure everything is restocked and easy to grab, easy to buy. Again, you're only going to sell more. Storage, you want to, however you have your back storage done, you know, you want to make sure that it's very easy for your staff to access, it's organized. It's only going to make it easier for everyone to like keep your areas stocked. Like as far as physical inventories, I go through our merchandise every 2 to 3 weeks. I put my hands on every single piece, you know, and I make sure that we have the sizes that we need. It's a great indicator of like, when do I need to reorder this? I hate running out of stuff. Chris will tell you how much he hates going to fulfill an online order and then we don't have that size. So you want to make sure that you have someone going through your stuff, even if it's just putting your hands on it and taking a look at your sizes, you know, just to make sure that you have everything you need. You're gonna sell it, so you want to make sure you have it.
Yeah, if you're doing online sales and in-house sales, you really should have a completely separate inventory for your online sales that nobody can touch. Because we've had that issue, people order online and we didn't have the stuff that had been sold in the beer hall. So you really want to have that separate inventory with under lock and key pretty much. So people can't just come in at the last minute and grab it and then a sale comes in online and you can't fulfill it. Because that's really irritating and it's time consuming to reach out to that customer and say, we don't have this, what do you want now? And then you're going back and forth. So it really excuse me, a good idea to have two inventories.
Yeah. And I mean, when I do the inventories every couple of weeks too, I go on our website and I update quantities. You know, if I'm out of a size, I'll go through and I'll put that size as out of stock. If I know I have it on reorder already, I'll leave it on there. Because worst case scenario, hey, sorry, this hasn't come in yet. It's going to be a few weeks delayed, but they can still get it, you know? Sometimes I miss things occasionally, but it is what it is. And we try our best.
Another thing, if you don't have the staff to do it all, online sales, I don't know about you guys, it's minimal. It's very minimal, so you're better off to put your time and energy in, you know, your beer hall or whatever you have going on, forego the online sales. We do both. Online sales is not a lot of money. Picks up around the holidays, but other than that, it's not big.
And then up next is kind of just like best ways to display. So I put together some photos from all of our breweries. Just guys can get an idea of how we like to display things. So displaying near high traffic areas is key. You don't want people to have to go looking for where your merchandise is. It should be something that they see when they walk in. You don't want it to be hidden in the back corner. Not everyone's going to venture to that part of your business, right? So if you can, the closer to your entrance or like more obvious you can make it, that's definitely better. Again, stocking, having it for ease of purchase. Won't stress this enough, let them touch it. And you want to keep it neat, clean, and stocked. So if you have someone that can go over there and, you know, restock it throughout the day, if you've had a particularly busy day, or if it's just looking kind of messy because people were over there rifling through your t-shirts, you know, make it easily shoppable for them. So first, this is Racket River's kind of display area.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but there's an overhead door on the end here on my corner. But this is an overhead garage door. That in the summertime that's open. There's also doors on the other side of this to go out to the patio. So people are in and out all day long, walking right through the merchandise area, which is awesome. Then we also have, you know, stuff on display here underneath in the cupboards. There's extra stock, which makes it easy to replenish throughout the day. And then we have a building where we have to run for more stuff if we run out there. But, you know, as organized as you can be is always good. But the fact that it's easily accessible, it feels like a store. You're not in someone's way when you're shopping for merch. You're not fighting with the bar. You're in your own little space, your little shopping world there. It makes a difference, you know. If it's inconvenient, if you feel like you're in the way when you're trying to find a t-shirt, that's not helpful. So if you can put it somewhere that's its own spot, then you're better off. In the summertime, if we have big events or busy days, we'll actually have one person in that area with a POS and, you know, just helping people find what they want to find and checking people out with merch, because people have piles of merch and that slows down our bartenders if they have to, you know, ring up all that merch. One thing I would recommend, which we do not have right now, we're looking into it, is a barcode scanner, because we have so much merch and so many different items that when they come to the bar, we're scrolling through the POS to find this stuff, and there's tons of it, and it slows us down. If we had a barcode scanner, which we're trying to get right now, then we could just hit them with that and make the checkout much more painless and less time consuming. So. Yeah.
Okay, so this is at Lake Placid Pub and Brewery. So at that location, it's a little bit different, not as traditional, as a lot of breweries are. We actually bought a shed. What size is that shed, Chris?
It's like 10 by 20.
Okay. So it's like a cedar shed, and it sits out front in our parking lot, kind of like right in front of the building. So in the summertime, it's really, really great because that's a beer garden outside. There's people out there playing cornhole, everything. We have it staffed with someone to check you out in there during the busy times and during the summer. So you go in and it's very well decorated. We have plenty of shelving, and we mix between like hanging clothes and folding clothes. But again, it's all very accessible and it is very well stocked. We also, throughout the restaurant, have different areas where the merchandise is displayed. When you walk in, this is the bottom of the tower, we call it, right? So you walk in and we have a couple of mannequins there. Just displays some few of our more popular items. And then we have merchandise literally sprinkled throughout the entire restaurant. On the mantles, it's hanging, it's all over the place. We have multiple signs and stuff too that say like, please make sure you check out our gift shop. It's on our receipts, it's in our beer books, even like just as a reminder that it is there. For the simple fact that it is outside, so it is a little bit different. And then at Big Slide, when we first opened, we didn't have a dedicated space for merchandise, so we had to make one. And luckily, we have like a fairly open entrance area, so I was able to just like build some shelving there. We just keep all the clothes are folded there. We have some mannequins, or put together little outfits. It's on both sides of the entrance, so every single person who comes into our business has to walk past all of this. And most of them stop, they check it out, and they're like, oh, like I'll grab something on my way out. It's also where our to-go beer area is. So a lot of times people are grabbing a growler, and then they look to their left, and here's all these glasses that they can use to drink said growler, right? And then we also have it displayed throughout the restaurant as well. We sell drink tanks. We sell a lot of drink tanks. We have them hanging on some of the beams. And people are constantly walking by and they look up and they're like, what is that? So it just is like an eye-catching thing. It helps sell them. People at the bar kind of look up and they're like, oh, what are these? And the bartenders upsell them. Then it's like $75 in your pocket super quick because it's just an eye-catching thing, and they see it all throughout the space. So just a little bit about like promos and discounts. Combo pricing is a good way to go. We don't personally do a lot of this, but doing like a glass and a t-shirt or a hat and a t-shirt for a combo price is a nice way to go. Mark, what do you guys do for that?
Yeah, we don't do any of that. We don't really do any sales unless it's something that's not moving. And the way that we typically get rid of clothing or merchandise that is not a good seller is we'll take a banquet table, 8-foot banquet table, and lay this stuff out on a table, and it goes. And again, that's just proof that when you put things in front of people, it sells. So if you're giving them even more access now, because this table's like sticking out, or it's, then they see that and you put sale on it and you mark it down a little bit, you will get rid of it. But we don't typically do combo sales or any sales. We don't need to, so.
Yeah, we don't do a ton of sales either. Again, it's just kind of with things that aren't moving faster. If people are coming, they don't mind spending the money on your merchandise, so you don't really need to devalue it by putting it on sale. But souvenir glasses are a cool concept to do. It's a nice way to get that extra few bucks. A pint glass costs you $1.50. Your pint costs you $6. You can sell that for $10. Here's your combo. Get your glass, get your beer in it. You just take it home with them right there. And then our last little part of this is just unloading like seasonal merchandise. One key, don't over-purchase it in the first place, right? If it's something that's super seasonal, get those smaller quantities of it. End of season sale, again, we don't do a ton of this because I really try my best to not over-purchase seasonal stuff. You can make these your combo discounted items if you're going to do something like that. It's a great way to get rid of them. Also, you can use them as like giveaways, donations. You can sell them to your staff at cost if they wear your stuff as uniforms. One thing that we're going to try this year, kind of for the first time, is we're just going to do kind of like a spring garage sale, if you will. Set up a table outside, like in our parking lot, under our tent, and just sell some of the things that we're just kind of sitting on, and see how that goes.
Yeah, one thing I forgot is super important. If your logo doesn't include your town and state on it, you need to put that on every piece of merch you have. So if your logo is just a logo and doesn't say where you are, you should put Tupper Lake, New York under it, on the back of the hat, somewhere. 'Cause people want to tell everybody where they've been. It's what it's about. You know, they buy a T-shirt that says Rocky River Brewing. It better say Tupper Lake, New York. You know, because they want people to know where they've been, and that's huge. So, and that's true for your growlers too. We have a growler collection at the brewery that people bring in from breweries all over the world, and some of them don't say where they're from. And then every time I see that, I'm like, you're missing the boat here. Why would you print something on a growler and not tell people where you are, right? It's a cool logo, it's awesome, but it doesn't. I don't know where they're from. It makes no sense whatsoever, and a lot of people overlook that somehow. So make sure your town and state is on everything you do. You want people to come back. You want people to know where you are, right?
That is kind of the end of our presentation, so if you guys have any questions.
What's your employee, I thought my employees, like, when the whole thing comes in, like, I currently give a discount, and it's just like, how do you manage employee, uniform, what they can buy, best practice?
We do an employee discount, right? And we also give our employees clothing, so that's how we manage it.
Do you give them the first shirt, or do you, like, how do you, like, what's your policy for, you always give them, like, how much do you give them?
We don't have a set, number of things, and we obviously don't give them every type of shirt that comes in. We have so much stuff, but every so often we're like, everybody needs to take, some new clothing. We don't have a set amount that we do now, but we probably should, but we don't.
Yeah, I usually give our new front of house staff 2 t-shirts. I never just hand them out the things that cost more. Like these flannels are expensive. I'm not just going to give them to our staff. But we do offer them the employee discount. Our employee discount on merchandise is 25%. That way we're still making a good bit from it as well. But that's why I was saying, like, if you have out of season stuff that you're looking to get rid of, selling it to them at cost is a good option to do. And that's something that we don't actually really do, but the more and more I think about it, I'm like, that's such an easy way to unload some extra stuff that maybe we could start doing. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually have 2 questions. You mentioned stocking the shelves up. Do you keep a limited supply then out on the floor? So say you were to have, is a shelf that's too full or a shelf that's half full, which is more attractive?
So
should you leave some supplies out from the floor?
So what I grew up in a small business. Chris said, Jesse's Bait and Tackle. My mom and my dad always said, never let there be an empty space. So we would always pull merch to the front, no matter what it was. Even if you ran out of something completely, you fill that hole with something. You duplicate something. You want the holes to be full, always. So nobody likes shopping in an empty space. So I don't think you can be overstocked unless things are falling on the floor, but you just always want to have that full look, in my opinion.
Well, the thought process for me is if I see that shelf is getting more and more empty, I may want to stop and get that right now instead of waiting until the next time to pick it up. So I think it's kind of playing both ways a little bit. But the other one is seasonal sale. What if you were to take things off the shelves temporarily and then bring them back out later? Has anyone tried that to see if it would make something sell a little quicker?
I mean, that's always a good option too. Usually I will leave it out all the time, and because why not give someone the opportunity to buy that at all times? But I'll make its footprint on the shelf much smaller. You know, instead of having like 3 or 4 or 5 of each size out there, there's 2. And so I can fit it in one stack and in one spot, but I still keep it like towards the top because I don't want it to get lost, you know, with everything else. And I shuffle things around on the shelves too, just so that like maybe the hoodies, they're kind of down on the bottom, don't get as much exposure as the t-shirts at the top. So I do, you know, like periodically go through and kind of switch things around that way. Kevin?
I just wanted to touch on that. We learned pretty quickly that putting a date on a lot of your merchandise is a bad idea. So you can't bring it back later, right? So we give
Yep.
glasses to marathons. And while they're putting the date on the marathon, then they're not usable the next year. So although we've tried in the past playing with vintage clothing that actually has the date on to see if people will come back and buy the new version next year. But I think in things like wine glasses and such, leaving the date off them is a great way to be able to sell it in future years.
Yep. Yeah, right here.
Not to open Pandora's box, but so you sell a lot of items, you know, every class. Do you check it? Does the SLA have like regulations on what merchandise we can sell or anything? I seem to remember them like with food items. They pushed when I had a store before I went to the brewery. They were pushing me hard on what I could actually sell in there versus not sell.
Well, we're not talking food items, so as far as merchandise go, I don't know of anything that the SLA cares about. Chris?
No, I don't think
No, no.
We at Big Slide and at Lake Placid, we actually do sell a couple food items to go because we have a bakery as well. But as long as you have the proper like nutrition facts and everything on there, like we haven't been given any kind of a hassle about it.
Well, I always have a lot of wood according stuff, so it's like Placid for the clothing, you have the in-house graphic design, or are you subbing that out to your vendors to help you with that?
Both. So we do some in-house, and then our vendors do some of the graphics also.
I could touch on that
Combination.
too. What I was referring to before, a lot of these companies that are selling the transfers actually have an online graphics creator. So there's clip arts and stuff that you can pick and choose to make your own graphics if you don't have someone in-house to do it.
Here's the other thing though, like when you lose control of the design part of it, they tend, no offense, they tend to bastardize your logo. Like it's fun for them to play with your logo. It's like our logo is a red chair, like Placid logo. Like I don't want it in purple, you know. Big Slide had our Big Slide logo has a couple of components. There's like a ski jump, there's a hop. So we kind of let them, some of our merch has the hop part of it, some of it has the ski jump part of it. But well, I can speak for Morgan, when we send it to a company and say, hey, we want to, get new hats this year, they change the fonts, they change, and it's like, whoa, like this is, at the end of the day, A, it's about beer, but B, it's about brand. And you can't change the brand. If it's a red chair on a red shirt, okay, you gotta go to white, or maybe white pops on a black shirt, that kind of thing. But to me, when they start deconstructing and altering your brands, that's not what you're trying to do with your merch program.
Yeah, and I mean, for a lot of them, like, you have your logos, you know what you want, so sometimes, like, you can just be like, hey, this is what I want my logo left pocket placement, right? Or you can be like, hey, here's our artwork, what are your ideas, but please keep it on brand. And they do a really good job at sending, they'll do as many mock-ups as you want them to do. You like this part, you don't like this part, they'll switch it for you. It's really good to be able to do that too.
You guys are both very clear on what you strive for your brand. Can you talk about how you reach that clarity for your branding, the evolution of that?
I think that,
That's a whole nother 2 hours. No, branding is, we're talking about merchandising today, and I get the whole branding thing, but literally that would be a whole long conversation. We have 2 logos, which isn't really recommended, but it works for us. But like I said, we could talk about that for hours.
The only thing I would say is that, so we're 27 years into it, and we have slightly tweaked and updated our logo a couple of times to make it a little bit more contemporary. We did, the last one that we did was maybe 2 years ago, where we put some lines in between, like the chair and the wording and that kind of stuff. But we really wanted it to be as consistent as possible. And we like it, right? So if it works for us, it speaks a lot about the Adirondacks. But if you have a logo that's, you know, some logos can get dated pretty fast. Don't hesitate to change, and it'll settle into something.
I was just wondering if there was a on-demand glass printer like your 3D printing?
Not really. Glassware is, you're usually buying in bulk. Personally, my vendors that I deal with glassware, minimums, start at 144. Sometimes it's more expensive, the item, they'll go down in quantity, but there really isn't, that I know of, an on-demand type of solution unless you're stocking your own, engraver or something like that. There are, I personally will work, I have a vendor that I work with who will work with me on smaller orders. But the logistics of shipping glassware, becomes almost, the shipping becomes more expensive than the glass itself. So, that's always been a tough thing, glassware, to buy in small quantities. No, yeah. Well, no,
Like glassware?
yeah, there are other, you could get into sublimation. Not really work well on glassware, but more like on mugs and stuff that you could potentially do on demand. But not anything that I know, glassware, unless you're using a decal or something that's not, somewhat permanent, but you're not sticking it in a dishwasher.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you mentioned working with other local vendors, Dogfish, Coffee, are those items, when they're sold in your tasting room, are they sold and branded with your own brand, or co-branded with another local vendor? How do you approach that?
We don't co-brand with anybody, no. They're all usually have our own logo on them.
Okay.
Like the beer soaps that we have, she does put our brand on the label, and then she does put her information on the back.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not her information first, it's ours first. Yeah, and then hers is like secondary.
And you purchase straight out, there's no like consignments or anything like that?
No, I email her, send me 20 bars of soap, please, and I get them in a week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, when in your supplement job, you know, the Adirondacks, and so when it's really nice out, people tend to be outside on their beer gardens. Using plastic cups with logos on them, using glassware on them, and if you are, how do you find that?
So when we started out, every pint glass had our logo on it, and they just walked out the door with every customer. So we just use unbranded glassware now. We don't use plastic. We're considering plastic for a few major events that will have our logo on it, but we haven't done that yet. They'll be compostable when we do it. But right now, there's just glass unbranded.
Well, Lake Placid, what about you, Lake Placid?
Sorry. We don't use plastic outside really at all, ever. And then, to be honest, our glassware that we use is kind of mixed. Some of it is branded, some of it is not. Again, same thing. We were losing a lot. But our sampler glasses are branded because that's like the #1 thing that people take photos of when they're there. So we do have our logo on our sampler glasses.
Have you ever had any success selling high-end apparel, high-end merch, for example, Patagonia, LL Bean, or the margin's so small on that it's not worth it?
That's something that we have debated doing. We have done like Nike golf shirts, and those sold fairly well. But you have to charge so much for them that it's hard to be like, how much money do I really want to spend on buying these Nike golf shirts or this Patagonia thing? We had North Face hats at one time. It was before my time. but I still see some of those floating around. So like the quality speaks for itself in that way. So it can be worth it, I feel like, if you want to make that initial investment, but you're not going to get the same profit margins as if you're just going to buy, you know, the Bella brand.
I can touch on that too. So I'm able to, in our industry, we are able to get Patagonia and the like at a discount. So normally when I'm selling to a client, I'm able to sell a decorated item at basically the same price as you would get a blank item. So there are ways of going high end like that. Not to mention that specifically North Face, Nike, Brooks Brothers. I'm trying to think of some other like high end names off the top of my head right now that actually have a line of wholesale goods specifically to our industry. So I can get Nike, you know, for basically 50% off of an item that, you know, you can't buy that same item at Dick's or go, you know, to your local store, sports shop to buy that shirt. But the wholesale version of it is virtually identical. It's just a different SKU. So they can, you know, so I can't then, you know, purchase the shirts and start selling them at a discount to undercut Nike. So they know specifically that those certain items are specifically for the wholesale industry. So Patagonia is a tough one in general because, well, they actually just started to ease up on their decorating policies. For a while, you were, like in my industry, Patagonia, I had to sign a waiver saying that I wouldn't decorate it. I was just giving it to my clients blank. They realized that was a mistake, and they've kind of retracted that and have opened it up a bit. But yeah, I mean, again, the higher end items in my industry always sell well, especially at you know, for golf events and whatnot.
There are some things though that we found that you have to do on the higher end, like Morgan was saying before about like we have Ironman in Lake Placid. So like for a while we've tried to sell maybe a more affordable biking shirt, and we weren't really appealing to anybody. Because if you want a biking shirt and you might be doing an Ironman, you don't want a promo biking shirt. Like you want the highest end, right? So I think our shirts are what, Kevin, like $100, 90 or $100
Sell it for 90.
for our bike jerseys, but they're like real, like you could wear them, and the people who are doing these are wearing them. It's like you don't want to make like a, you know, we always have companies come and say, oh, we can make a logo snowboard for you. And it's like, yeah, but no one who snowboards in Lake Placid is going to buy a shitty snowboard, right? Like, so, you know, and we don't want to Birkin one. So there are some things that you have to go highest end, but we just haven't really had a ton of success. The Nike Bell shirt sold okay, but you know, we had it for 2 years.
Go ahead.
Chris, have you found any sneaky ways to, the maximum of POS marketing, and then for the purchasing for the
No, I don't have any tricky ways. I wish
you
I
guys
did.
go in like any way that you want.
One thing the only POS thing that we did, which is really effective, is we like do a really good job putting the merch into the POS system so that we can keep the inventory really kind of quickly, so that we're not having that problem of scrolling through. Like you can put a picture that's the best, or a color or something like that, because that's the frustrating inventory, therefore reordering thing is when, you know, you sold a formal green shirt, but you know, you're missing 4 here and you got 4 after there.
Kevin?
You know, we all know that you get much better pricing on classroom merchandise when you order in bulk. We have 10 hats and we have 12 different shirts. Any thoughts on how to manage the amount of money that you have tied up in March within your establishment?
A tough one. I think it's different for everybody, right? So, I mean, you got to keep up with demand. So we basically we order enough so that we never run out. We have storage, so we just keep way ahead of the game and buy in bulk constantly. Because buying in bulk, you can drop the price of a t-shirt a couple dollars. It's huge over the course of a year. So we don't have a specific method other than just staying ahead of the game as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit different because we don't have as much. I mean, actually, we do kind of have the storage space now, but we didn't for a really long time. So, I mean, we have 12 different hats. I'm not buying 400 of each hat. I'm buying 72 at a time, you know? And it's also like all about how fast you're going to get those reorders in. Like, if you know you can get that hat reordered in 2 weeks and you don't have the storage space to hold 144, don't. You know, order 72. Until you hit that, like, what's your big bulk number? Like 244 or like 276?
Yeah.
Like, until you hit that price number, the difference between 48 and 72 and 96 isn't that much. You know, so if you need to order smaller amounts more frequently, you can do that too. It's maybe your, you know, highest selling things you're buying in big bulk, but, you know, the rest of it, 48, 72.
The, you know, Mark has the luxury of doing a decent amount of business, so he can buy so much in bulk and he can store because he has the space. But specifically, again, and the DTF, there's a few places you could go and check the transfers themselves. The websites are called Transfer Express, 613 Originals, and that's the number 6 or number 13 Originals. Where again, you know, where if you were going to have as many SKUs as Mark does, you know, you couldn't possibly. But using the transfers, you're obviously, you know, your storage space can be as little as you need it to be, and you can. There are on some wholesale style vendors online. The Jiffy Shirts is one that comes up that a lot, where you can get not as good pricing as I can get in my industry, but you can get discounted apparel like Bell and Canvas, which is a huge name in our industry now. But you could buy it yourself, and you can order as many or as little as you need. Order the transfers as well. And then again, you get to somewhere where Mark is, and then yes, it obviously makes more, you know, you're going to get even more discounts if you're buying in super bulk and working with a vendor. But if you don't have that luxury, you don't have that in your budget, you know, you could do it all by yourself. All you need is, you know, the investment is the heat press and purchasing the transfers right up and then buying the blank garments.
All right, it's 12 o'clock. I'd like to thank everyone, thank the panelists.